Fantastic. So we'll just do a brief intro here because this is a very loose. I have several things that happened before this, right? We can talk about this is reality.
Yeah.
So, hi, I'm Jen with Weirdo Weddings and Pinklet Images. I'm a wedding photographer and a conceptual artist and mom to a current 6-year-old friends. So I have lived one through six of what it's like to be a business owner and a family person, parent, and we are up to 6 years old. And I have my guest here with me, and I will have you say your name and your profession and about your child. Go ahead.
Yeah. My name is Kacie Brenner, and I'm the owner and lead coordinator at Constellation Events, which is a day of coordination service. And I am in year one. I have a 9-month-old, so I'm right at the beginning of dealing with a infant as a business owner. And it's been super slow. Reality is she's right here. So I decided not to take a nap on time, which is fine.
Yes, and that was one of two things that happened just now with our starting this podcast here. Is the first thing was is we both forgot.
Mom brain for the win.
And the fabulous thing is that I was on Clubhouse earlier, just chatting away with people, and I realized it was afternoon, and I was like, wait, I think I have something to do today. And so I run off to my calendar, and sure enough, I was like, well, to honor our time, I was like, let's do this. Let's get on here. And the second thing that happened is that I had cold coffee.
Yeah. Yeah, it is actually a running joke between me and my sister-in-law that we'll just text each other back and forth, your coffee's in the microwave. Because it's usually just in the microwave hanging out.
Exactly. And for me, I sometimes get distracted and I have to reheat it a minimum of 3 to 4 times if I'm really, really distracted. And especially in the younger years of my daughter.
Yeah.
And obviously she's at school right now. So I do have the break during the day, but I remember those years very fondly. So I do think that we were going to go ahead and start our topic about literally what we just said. You have a very young one, you're in year one, and what it's like to run a business while having a young child, a baby, basically, that cannot fend for themselves.
Yeah, she's fun. She's also recently decided not to take a bottle, so that's been added an extra complication. So the metaphor that I've been using most recently is so there's a metaphor in life where life is like juggling a bunch of different balls, and they're all different materials.
Yeah.
So there's some balls that are rubber, where if you drop them, it's no big deal. It'll just bounce, whatever. And then there's other balls that are glass, where if you drop them, they'll shatter, and they're irreparable. Or if you can repair them, they're never the same. And those are your personal relationships, that kind of thing. And I feel like I've been handed a new ball that's made of chainsaws that are on fire.
Oh my
and I'm
gosh.
trying to figure out how to juggle that in with everything else. And it's been interesting, to say the least.
I do have to say, as a wedding photographer, I know that our jobs can be almost parallel. Like you're managing people, I'm managing people. I remember shooting a wedding 3 weeks after my daughter was born.
Oh, wow.
And it is very clear that she was not on a bottle. I was not prepared.
Oh, no. Well, and I thought to myself, because I had a wedding that was scheduled like a week after her due date, but I had an assistant that was going to cover it. It was no big deal. And I thought I would be back up and running by October, November. She was born at the end of June.
Yeah.
No. Apparently we're too successful at nursing. So she does not take a bottle very well. She does not like anyone else. She barely likes her dad. And it's, so she is attached to me all the time. So the idea of being away from her for 12 hours on a weekend is unfathomable still. And I'm hoping I can get back to it this fall. Once she's weaned after her birthday, we'll see how that goes. So, yeah.
I was going to say you're in this interesting place of it feels like it's never going to end, and then it does, and you're like, oh my God.
And I've been doing her baby book, and it's so tiny. So we've come a long way. It's good to remember how far we've come.
And I remember I went through exactly what you're going through. The first year in particular, I had that love-hate relationship with her being so clingy. And I literally couldn't go very far for very long because of that, the breastfeeding. And your body's on a timer, whether you like it or not. And even once I started getting regulated, if I was away too long, then if I was traveling, I took my pump with me. I actually went to Wisconsin for a photo convention. That was my first time away from her for days. And then I was like, I still took my pump with me because I never know what was my body was going to do.
Yeah.
And then, but I was in that mode for about 15 months, until I finally shut the factory down, shut the factory down. But, I understand let's just walk
It's a
through
lot of autonomy.
let's walk through some of those feelings because I remember
Yeah.
feeling pinned. I remember
Yeah.
feeling,
Trapped almost.
trapped. Um, I remember
Yeah.
loving my daughter so much, but I'm like, I want you to get away from me for a while.
Yeah, just for like 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes of you not on me would be great.
And so also she napped on me. She would not take a nap off of me in that the first year.
3 months, that was same for her. She has gotten better. She actually took herself off of the bedside bassinet and decided she wanted to sleep in her crib overnight before I was ready.
Oh.
So yeah, she was about 5 months old, and she would go to sleep in her room at the start, and then I would go get her when we were going to bed and put her in the bedside bassinet. And about 5 months in, she decided she didn't like that anymore. She stopped, she stopped tolerating that transition and stopped going to sleep in our room. So
yeah,
that was traumatizing. I still not over it. So I still have 2 monitors on overnight for her.
Yeah.
Because I can't, I'm so worried about it. But no, it's a loss of autonomy where you're stuck. Like, you have your entire schedule revolves around the needs of a different person, and it's a need, it's not a want. So you can't even decide to let it go one day. Like, no, because then your kid just starves. Like, you can't do that. So
yeah. And it's like, I think I remember giving myself a lot more grace during my first year, because of that exact thing. Like, there was no way I could market and hustle the way I was marketing and hustling before a child. There's no physical way unless you have a whole team of people working for you, which, that was a big part of our conversation today, is that we're solopreneurs, right? I like having the business the way I have it. And I adore people that have the teams and the employees and assistants and don't get me wrong, I love bringing in people to assist when it's necessary, but for the most part, I'm a solopreneur and I'm doing this all alone, and with the grace of my network, helping get the word out. But I remember that first year where I was like, well, what am I supposed to do? I can't do shows. I can't do events. I can't go anywhere for very long. Your computer becomes your best friend because the online world is instantly accessible.
That's all you got.
And honestly, I mean, this was in 2017. So it's not, to me, 2020 was a lot different in the fact that I was potty training during 2020, but I still had ways to get outside of the house. I still had ways to go do things. And I feel for the people who got pregnant and had babies in 2020 because their littlest ones were trying to figure out life being locked down.
Yeah.
And trying to explain it to a 3-year-old at the time was very heartbreaking too, because their world at this age is so grand and awesome, and they're like, everything is amazing, but when you tell them they can't go do the thing, they're like, but why?
Yeah, I don't understand that.
No,
we had her last year, 2022, whereas the tail end of the pandemic, which, fun fact, we actually had COVID the weekend before she was born, so that was super neat. That was not fun at all.
So I have a question for you, mom to mom. As you were pregnant and gearing up for knowing that you potentially have time off, did you also assess was it hard to have a mind shift of that? Once she was here and, you're looking after your kid and you're then you have this moment of, oh my God, they're here. What do I do with myself? And then you know what to do with yourself. And then you're do you start missing your business a little bit?
Yeah, I definitely miss going to weddings. Not just the cake, but the cake is a big part of it. Yes, the cake. I know.
She's like, no, mommy, boobies.
No, focus. No, I do miss it a lot. And it was weird because I thought, oh, I'll have this down pat. Like, it'll be no problem. I'll be able to go right back. She'll be super cooperative and I'll be able to get, right back in the swing of things. She'll take a bottle. I can pop, no big deal.
Yeah, yeah.
And I vastly underestimated the freight train that was about to hit me. But I feel like I'm just now to get some equilibrium, which part of that was PPD. So that was an extra kink in the rope there. But I hired an assistant back in January before she was due, and she trained with me for I think a dozen weddings last spring.
Wow.
To be able to take over. So now she's still actually doing weddings for me, not full time, like part time. To the point where I don't have to go and do weddings anymore, or if I do, we split time and I'm there for 3, maybe 4 hours tops. Like, baby has come with me to a couple of rehearsals already because, I can't leave her at home, and she just loves seeing wedding venues. She loves string lights, so that's helpful. Usually her dad will go with us and just kind of watch the baby while I handle business, and it's been very weird to try and find the new equilibrium.
Yeah, and you're going to find that happening probably over this next year, just in general, as she gets older and as she gets, you're starting food and all that wonderful stuff, right? And then we're going to, how is the crawling and the walking going? Like, it's like, crawling, walking, scooting, all that stuff that starts happening.
Yeah, I know. She started crawling early, like a couple days after Christmas. So she was like barely 6 months old. And so she did that early, and she is darn near walking now at just 9 months. So I'm just like, could you slow down just a touch? That'd be great. But now that she's getting mobile, I feel like it's going to be easier to take her places. So it should be maybe less isolating. Like, maybe we can go to the park once she's walking, or the library, or, those mommy and me classes that are always very conveniently scheduled right during her nap time.
Yeah, that's another thing too, is like when you're trying to connect with other moms that are in the same scenario as you, which I highly recommend, by the way, if you can, connecting with other moms. I found that to be beneficial. I'm actually still friends with a couple of them today because all of our kids are now like 6 years old. And we've all walked through this together in different ways. Like, some people were bottle, some people were breast, some people were trying different methods of parenting, and then some people have different kinds of jobs, and some people are working 9 to 5, and some people like us are owning our own business, right? So it's just so many different kinds of walks of life that I've found as a parent that I'm consistently wanting to be around other, like even right now, like my daughter's in kindergarten, and I kind of want to be around the parents of the kids in her class because I'm like, we can lament about how whiny they are.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that stage. Oh my God.
Well,
like, she's already very talkative, but it's cute.
I love the fact that she can communicate. And here's the bright side of it is that communication is awesome. The downside of it is if you're the kind of personality that you start to just really get tired after somebody like talks too much, then it wears on me a little bit every once in a while, and I need a break. And that's kind of why I like having these days where I can work on some stuff quietly or listen to music, or I have these days where I want to just turn up the music and dance around and do whatever. Then I have the days where I'm just like, everybody get out of the house, please. I just want to be alone.
Yeah, I have had the house to myself 0 times since she was born.
Yeah.
A couple of times that, like, she'll be here, so it's not to myself, but she's asleep and my husband's not home, so it's a different vibe. You are not still hungry. No, you're not.
I was going to say, my husband moved in during quarantine, so he has not moved back out. We're sharing office space. And that does a number on the separation of work and home. And that's something that we've been navigating as a couple, but also as parents, because it's just, I feel like we're all here all the time. And it's just like, some days I just get so fed up and I said, all right, we're going for a walk. We're leaving the house, or we're going to have a change of scenery because, as much as I like a nice quiet house and don't want to leave my chair, I feel like getting outside is also very, very healthy. And it just gives your brain a reboot. And I think that's what I was excited about in my first year after having Miracle, was to find little ways to get out of the house that wasn't overwhelming, I guess. Is there anything that you would give new moms are new parents right now that have the young ones around your age, is there any suggestions that you would give them for their mental health and well-being as just overall as a human, not even just as a business owner?
Yeah. I mean, everyone hypes the self-care nowadays, but you have to figure out what that looks like for you, for one. For me, that looks like getting a shower every day.
Oh my God,
Um,
yes. Yes.
yeah, that's been a big one, which like I wasn't able to when she was like a newborn, but since I think month 2, I've had a shower every single day. And that is something I told my husband. I was like, I need a shower every day. Like if I smell myself, because I don't know what it is about pregnancy. I don't know if it changed my BO or if I can just smell it differently now, but drives me nuts. So like I have to shower every day. And then recently we've also instated a weekly mom's outing where I
Yes.
leave the house in clothes that are not made for nursing for
Yes.
2 hours
Yes.
because I can't go
Yes.
for more than 2 hours because that's how often she eats. But I leave the house by myself and go do something, and it's usually related to her. Like last weekend, I went clothes shopping and then shopping for a scrapbook at Michael's. So like I went and did stuff for her, but it was really for me. And like I love her to death, but sometimes you just need to not hear or see or feel your baby.
Oh my God,
Just for a
yes.
little bit. Just for a little bit.
Yeah.
And
And
those
then
breaks are so important.
I 100% agree with everything you just said. I remember showers being the number one thing that I enjoyed every single freaking day. And if I could, I'd try to sneak in too, because it's what, 10 or 12 minutes, depending on how you shower. I would stay in there
Yeah.
maybe 15, 15, 20, as
Yeah.
long as the hot water would last and just kind of just like breathe. And I love water in general, like the ocean, the rivers and streams. And just let me sit in that shower for a while and just,
Yeah, my husband calls it my dragon time because I turn the hot water up about as hot as I can
yes,
stand it and just sit
yes,
on my back. It's
same.
wonderful.
Same, same. So we agree on that. The hot water's the best.
Absolutely.
So as we're starting to wrap up this first episode here, I wanted to kind of throw in. We haven't talked about tattoos yet, but
Oh yeah.
the fact that I met you at in person, obviously at the North Texas LGBTQ wedding event that Chevy put on, and
Yeah.
I started randomly talking about this to people about tattoos because I just recently got a new one where I didn't talk about the story behind it, but it's very particular to my story. But I'm kind of wanting to open up conversation with people, parents,
Yeah.
toddlers and tattoos is what we'll kind of call this. But I'm curious if you want to maybe start one of the stories of one of your tattoos, so I don't have to do it this round. Ha ha.
Sure. Do we want the funny story or the tough story? I've got
You
several
know
of
what?
each.
Let's do the funny one because,
All right.
this it started off funny and will end funny. And I don't know how
That works
much
for
time we
me.
have left, so we'll roll with it.
Yeah. So I have a turtle about a little bit bigger than a quarter on my ankle that I got while I was at a friend's birthday party in Deep Ellum. And we were all out, like to the point where the tattoo artist probably shouldn't have tattooed us. And I honestly forget that it's there so often that like I'll go to shave my legs in the shower and freak out that there's a spider on my leg because I forget that it's
Gosh,
there all the time. So that one's fun.
I love that. That's the first tattoo I ever got was a spider.
Oh, fun.
And I think I shared this with you at the event. That tattooing was illegal in Oklahoma at the time, so I went across the border to Kansas.
I did not know that was a thing. Oh man.
So in the 90s, there was a period of time in the 90s in Oklahoma where you couldn't get a tattoo in the state and it was illegal. And my college roommate was actually from New Mexico and she's like, whatever, I'm gonna go get a tattoo. And then she looked up something in Kansas and we ended up going to this. It was probably called the Underground Tattoo, if I memory serves me correctly. But I ended up picking a spider and it ended up being like the monumental thing of my college year at that
Nice.
time. And I called him Sylvester the Spider. So
That's adorable.
it is. It is. So we'll start with our lighthearted tattoo stories.
I like that. Yeah, I've got a couple other ones, so I've got plenty of stories.
Me too. Me too. And I can tell you this much: I did have repeat business at that tattoo parlor the following year. So
I bet.
so
I
I'll leave
actually
it.
saw a guy wearing a T-shirt from the tattoo shop that I got my first tattoo out in Long Beach, California. I saw him at a Costco out here. I was like, "Hey, I know that place."
Oh my
so
gosh,
wild.
that is so cool. I got one in San Diego, so it was like That'd be like me seeing my San Diego shop. And
Yeah.
yeah, super fun. How cool. Well, I want to thank you all for listening today. This has just been our off the brain, off the mom brains, quite frankly. We started late. I had to reheat my coffee twice. Nap time, no nap time.
I had a nurse during the session, whatever.
Yeah, yeah. This is the stuff that I remember from being a parent from 0 to 1.5. And then also I have a 6-year old. So we have both between the two of us experience and real life experience of what it's like to be a business owner and a parent all in one beautiful little package. So thank you for joining us today, and we will talk to you on the next episode.
Perfect.
Yay.